Aliens thought Earth had no warships. Then human fleet ships rose from the ocean. Far above the blue world called Earth, a silver ship drifted quietly in the dark. It had no lights, no sound, and no name that any human would ever hear. Inside, a tall creature with gray skin and 4 narrow eyes watched a screen filled with moving numbers. His name was Vel Chos, and he was a scout of the Drenari Empire, one of the oldest and strongest powers among the stars. Vel Chos had been watching Earth for almost 6 years. He had seen its cities glow at night. He had seen its planes fly and its rockets rise slowly into space. He had listened to its radio waves, its songs, its arguments, and its wars. And after 6 years of watching, he had come to one clear conclusion. Earth had no warships. He said this into his recorder in a calm, steady voice. The species called humans have reached only the edge of space. Their ships are slow. Their weapons are simple metal and fire. They have no shields, no plasma cannons, and no true war fleet. This planet is open for approach. He sent his report back to the Drenari home fleet, many light years away. It would take weeks to arrive, but Vel Chos was patient. He had all the time he needed. What Vel Chos did not know, what no alien eye had ever seen, was that deep below the waves of Earth's oceans, something enormous was waiting. It was not built to be found. It was not meant to be seen from space. It rested in silence, powered down, hidden in trenches deeper than any human had officially explored, and it had been growing there, piece by piece, for almost 40 years. On Earth, in a plain gray building near the coast of Norway, a woman named Dr. Elena Voss walked quickly down a long hallway. She carried a folder under her arm and did not smile. She had not smiled much in the last 3 years, not since the Ocean Watch project had become the most important thing in her life. She reached a large steel door guarded by 2 soldiers. They nodded and let her pass without a word. Everyone in this building knew who she was. She was the lead scientist of a project so secret that even most of the world's own governments did not fully understand it. Inside the control room, screens covered every wall. Some showed maps of the world's oceans. Others showed strange shapes resting far below the surface. Shapes too large and too smooth to be natural rock formations. In the center of the room stood a man in a military uniform, his arms crossed, his eyes fixed on the main screen. His name was General Marcus Reyes, and he had spent the last 2 decades of his life guarding a secret that could change the fate of humanity. "Report," he said, without turning around. Elena stepped beside him and opened her folder. "Fleet Ship 7 is at 98% readiness. The reactor core is stable. We could bring it fully online within 6 hours if needed. And the others? 6 through 12 are close behind. The rest will take longer. We built them one at a time, remember. We didn't have unlimited resources." Marcus nodded slowly. He had heard this answer many times before, but it never stopped worrying him. How long until we have a full fleet ready? At the current pace? 8 more years. We don't have 8 years, Marcus said quietly. Elena looked at him carefully. "Why do you say that?" Marcus turned to face her. His eyes were tired, but sharp. "Because Deep Watch picked up something new last night. A signal. Not from Earth. It came from far beyond the moon, and it was aimed directly at a point in the sky, like something was reporting back to someone." Elena felt a cold weight settle in her stomach. For years, the Ocean Watch project had been built on a single idea, that one day, Earth would not be alone anymore. And when that day came, humanity needed to be ready. Now it seemed that day might have already arrived. The story of the Ocean Watch project began decades earlier, in a small research station in the Pacific. A group of scientists, studying deep-sea currents, picked up strange metal readings far below the surface, in a trench so deep that sunlight had never touched it. At first, they thought it was some geological mystery, perhaps a mineral deposit shaped by pressure and time. But then they found something else: old wreckage, metal shaped in ways no human factory could produce, symbols carved into stone that matched no known language on Earth. And most strange of all, a chamber, sealed tight, holding technology far beyond anything humanity had ever built. The governments of the world were told quietly, carefully, one by one. Some refused to believe it, others were terrified. But a small group of leaders, scientists, and military officers understood the danger clearly. If aliens had visited Earth before, perhaps thousands of years ago, then they, or others like them, might return. And if they returned, humanity needed more than nuclear weapons and jet fighters to stand a chance. And so the Ocean Watch Project was born. Using pieces of alien technology recovered from that ancient wreck, combined with human engineering, scientists began work on something the public would never know about: giant warships, built not on land or in orbit, but hidden deep beneath the ocean, where no satellite could see them, and no enemy scout could easily search. The project moved slowly, in complete secrecy, funded through countless disguised budgets and secret agreements between nations. Over 40 years, ship by ship, the fleet grew. They called them fleet ships, vessels built to rise from the deep ocean floor, break the surface, and take to the sky and stars if needed. Each one was a marvel of combined human and alien science, powered by cores that ran on principles humanity had barely begun to understand, wrapped in armor stronger than anything else on the planet. But building something in secret meant building it slowly, carefully, and with limited materials. After 40 years, only 12 fleet ships were near completion. It was not the great armada the world would one day need. It was a beginning, a seed. Back in orbit, Vel'Chos continued his patrol, unaware that anything below the waves could threaten his empire's plans. He drifted closer to Earth's moon, adjusting his scanners, searching for any hidden bases or weapons the humans might have built in secret on the lunar surface. He found nothing there, just old human equipment from early moon landings, dust, and silence. He turned his attention back to Earth itself. His scans showed cities, roads, airplanes, and satellites, but nothing that resembled a warship. No shields, no orbital defense platforms. No sign of any technology that could challenge the Drenari fleet. It was, in his mind, the perfect confirmation of what he already believed. He recorded another report. This species remains unaware of the wider galaxy. Their technology, while creative, poses no threat to an approaching fleet. Recommend proceeding with the second phase of contact, rank direct approach, followed by resource assessment. The message was sent, carried by faster-than-light relay toward the heart of Drenari space, where an armada of over 200 warships waited for the order to move. Meanwhile, deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, inside a chamber built into solid rock and reinforced steel, a young engineer named Tomas Rivera worked through the night. He was one of the few people trusted to work directly on Fleet Ship 7's core systems. He had grown up hearing stories about the stars, dreaming of space travel like any other child, never imagining that one day he would help build a starship of his own, hidden from the entire world. Tomas ran diagnostics on the ship's main reactor, watching the numbers glow steady and green. Everything looked perfect. He allowed himself a small, tired smile. "Talking to the ship again?" a voice said behind him. It was his supervisor, Dr. Anwar Malik, one of the project's oldest engineers, a man who had worked on the very first fleet ship decades ago. "Just checking on her," Tomas said. "She's ready, I think. More ready than we give her credit for." Anwar walked closer, looking up at the massive shape of the ship above them, resting silently in its underwater dock. Even powered down, it looked alive, like a sleeping giant made of dark metal and pale blue lights. "You know," Anwar said quietly, "when I started this project, I was younger than you are now. I thought we'd have 100 of these ships built by the time I retired. Instead, we have 12, and I'm an old man." "Do you think it's enough?" Tomas asked. Anwar was silent for a long moment. "I hope we never have to find out," he said. "But if we do, 12 strong ships, built with everything we've learned, might be worth more than 100 weak ones." Above them, deep in orbit, Vel'Chos's ship silently continued its slow drift, unaware that far below, humanity's secret was stirring awake, one system check at a time. Days passed. General Reyes called an emergency meeting with representatives from the countries involved in the Ocean Watch project. Leaders from across the world gathered in a secure underground facility, beneath the mountains of Switzerland, a place built specifically for moments like this one. "The signal Deepwatch detected has been confirmed," Marcus said, standing before the group. "It was not natural. It was a transmission, sent from somewhere just beyond our solar system, aimed toward what our analysts believe is a larger fleet formation, far beyond detection range. A representative from Japan spoke first. Are you certain this means contact is coming? We can't be certain of anything, Marcus admitted. But every sign points to observation. Something has been watching us, possibly for years. A representative from Brazil leaned forward. And our fleet ships? Are they ready to defend us if contact turns hostile? Elena Voss answered this time. 12 ships are near full readiness. That is not the full fleet we hope to build, but they are powerful. Each one carries weapons and shields built from technology, far beyond what any nation on Earth currently possesses through normal means. 12 ships against an unknown enemy fleet, the representative from Brazil said slowly. Is that enough? No one answered right away. Marcus finally spoke, his voice steady despite the weight of the question. We built the Ocean Watch project because we knew this day might come. We do not know their numbers, we do not know their strength, but we do know one thing: Earth will not be defenseless. Whatever comes, we will meet it standing, not kneeling. The room fell silent, each leader lost in their own thoughts, imagining a future none of them had ever truly believed would arrive. Far above, unseen by any human eye, more Drenari ships began entering the outer edge of the solar system. Small scout vessels, quietly slipping past Jupiter, then Mars, moving steadily closer to Earth. They carried no weapons yet, only sensors and cameras, gathering more information to send back to the main fleet. Velchas watched their arrival from his position near the moon, feeling a quiet sense of pride. His reports had been trusted, his research had opened the way. Soon, the full might of the Drenari Armada would arrive, and Earth, rich in resources, full of unaware and undefended people, would become another world added to the growing empire. He had no idea that somewhere beneath the waves, 12 massive shapes were stirring, their reactors slowly warming, their crews preparing for a battle that history had not yet written. The ocean above them remained calm and quiet, hiding its secret perfectly, just as it had for 40 long years. But not for much longer. Back in the underwater base, Tomas Rivera stood beside Fleet Ship 7's control window, staring out at the deep blue darkness surrounding the ship. Somewhere far above, sunlight touched the surface of the ocean, but down here, only the pale glow of the ship's lights broke the endless dark. He thought about his family, about his mother who still believed he worked for an ordinary ocean research company, about his little sister who dreamed of becoming an astronaut one day, never knowing her brother already worked on something far beyond any rocket ship she had ever imagined. He thought about the years of work, the sacrifices, the secrecy, and he wondered, quietly, if the day was finally coming when all of it would matter. A soft alarm chimed through the control room. Tomas turned quickly to the main console. New data was streaming in from Deepwatch, the network of hidden sensors scattered across Earth's oceans and orbit. His eyes widened as he read the report. Unknown vessels detected, multiple contacts. Approaching Earth orbit. He reached for the communicator on his wrist and called General Reyes directly, his voice steady despite the pounding of his heart. "Sir," he said, "I think it's happening. I think they're here." Far above, in the silent darkness of space, more Drenari ships slipped quietly toward the blue and green world below, utterly certain that nothing waited for them but an easy conquest. They had no idea what truly slept beneath the waves. The alarm in the underwater base did not stop. Red lights flashed along the walls of the control room, and every screen now showed the same warning. Unknown vessels detected. Multiple contacts. Approaching Earth orbit. General Marcus Reyes arrived within minutes, his uniform still half-buttoned, his face calm but his eyes sharp with focus. He had trained for this moment for 20 years, yet nothing could fully prepare a person for the reality of it finally happening. "Talk to me," he said, walking straight to the main console, where Dr. Elena Voss stood, already working through the data. Deepwatch picked up 7 new contacts entering high orbit around Earth, Elena said. They are small, possibly scout ships. No weapon signatures detected yet, but their approach pattern is deliberate. They are not passing by. They are studying us. Any communication attempts? None. They are silent. Marcus turned to the wide screen, showing a simulated map of Earth's orbit. 7 small red dots blinked steadily, spread out evenly around the planet, watching from a distance. "They are gathering more information," Marcus said quietly. just like before. Tomas Rivera, still standing near his console, spoke up carefully. Sir, if they are only scouting, maybe they won't attack. Maybe this is just contact, not war. Marcus looked at him, his expression unreadable. Maybe. But we did not build 12 fleet ships hoping for peaceful contact, son. We built them hoping we would be ready either way. He turned to Elena. Bring Fleet Ship 7 to full readiness. Quietly. I don't want to move until we understand their intentions. Elena nodded and began typing commands into her console. Deep below the base, Fleet Ship 7's reactor core, which had been running at a low, steady hum for weeks, began to rise in power, its systems slowly waking from their long sleep. High above Earth, Velchos watched the incoming data from the 7 scout ships with satisfaction. Every scan confirmed what he already believed. No weapons platforms in orbit. No shields around the planet. No sign of any organized defense. He recorded a new message for the main fleet. Scout ships have entered orbit without resistance. Planetary defenses remain non-existent. Recommend beginning surface contact within 48 hours. The response came faster than he expected. The main Drenari fleet, led by Fleet Commander Skarn was already closer than Velchos had realized. It had been moving toward Earth for weeks, following behind the scouts at a careful distance, waiting only for confirmation that the way was clear. Commander Skarn was not a patient being. He had led the conquest of 11 worlds during his long career, and he saw little difference between this new blue planet and the others he had claimed. In his experience, most primitive species reacted the same way when faced with a superior fleet. Fear, confusion, and eventually surrender. He gave the order. 200 Drenari warships, arranged in a wide formation, began their final approach toward Earth. Back on Earth, the leaders gathered once again in the underground facility beneath the Swiss mountains, watching the growing crisis unfold on their screens. The scout ships have not moved for 6 hours, a representative from Germany said. Perhaps they are simply observing. Or perhaps they are waiting for something, Marcus said grimly. As if to answer his words, new alarms began sounding across the room. Elena's voice rose sharply. New contacts. Multiple large signatures entering the outer solar system. The main screen shifted, zooming out to show a wider view of space. A massive formation of ships, far larger than the 7 scouts, appeared at the edge of the display, moving steadily toward Earth. How many? Marcus asked. Elena's hands moved quickly across her console. Deep watch counts, 212 confirmed vessels, multiple sizes. Several appear to be significantly larger than anything we have seen before. A heavy silence fell over the room. 212 warships. Against 12 fleet ships, most of which were still not fully ready. The representative from Brazil spoke first, his voice tight with fear. We cannot fight that. We must attempt contact. Negotiation. I agree, said the representative from Japan. Show no aggression. Let them see we mean no harm. Marcus looked around the room slowly. I understand the instinct, but understand this as well. If we show weakness now, and their intentions are hostile, we will not get a second chance. The Ocean Watch project was not built to threaten anyone. It was built to protect everyone on this planet, if the day ever came that protection was needed. He turned to Elena. Prepare a broadcast. Peaceful. Open. We will attempt contact first, but quietly. Bring every fleet ship to standby readiness. If they attack, we will not be caught unprepared. The broadcast went out within the hour, carried on every frequency humanity could manage, a simple message repeated in dozens of languages. We are the people of Earth. We come in peace. We wish to understand your intentions. For several long hours, there was no response. Then, finally, a single transmission reached Earth, translated slowly by human systems working desperately to understand an unfamiliar language. The voice, when it came through, was deep and cold, carrying no warmth at all. This is Fleet Commander Skarn of the Drenari Empire. Your world has been assessed. Your species lacks the strength to resist claim. Prepare for orderly transition of resources and territory. Resistance will not be tolerated. The message repeated twice, then went silent. In the control room beneath the Swiss mountains, no one spoke for a long moment. Finally, Marcus broke the silence, his voice low and steady. There's our answer. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, the 12 fleet ships stirred fully awake for the first time since their construction. Crews rushed through corridors built decades ago for exactly this moment, checking systems, arming weapons, preparing shields. Tomas Rivera stood at his station, aboard Fleet Ship 7, watching the reactor core glow brighter than he had ever seen it. Around him, the ship hummed with life, awakening fully, after years of careful, patient preparation. Captain Sarah Kim, commander of Fleet Ship 7, walked through the bridge, checking each station personally. She was a calm woman, chosen years earlier for her steady judgment under pressure, though nothing in her long career had prepared her for a moment like this one. "Status report," she said. "Reactor at 99%, Tomas answered. "Shields online, weapon systems armed and ready. Life support? Fully stable." Sarah nodded slowly, looking out through the main viewport at the dark ocean surrounding the ship. Somewhere far above, on the surface world she had trained her whole life to protect, an alien fleet was approaching with the intention of conquest. "All fleet ships, this is command," General Reyes's voice came through the ship's speakers. "The enemy fleet is entering low orbit. We believe an attack is imminent. Prepare for surface breach on my command. Today, the ocean gives up its secret." Across the Pacific, and in hidden bases scattered beneath other oceans around the world, 11 other fleet ships began their own final preparations, their crews staring at glowing screens, their hearts pounding with a mixture of fear and determination. In orbit, Commander Skarn Ur watched Earth grow larger on his view screen, feeling nothing but confidence. He had given his warning. The humans had not surrendered, but that mattered little. Their silence would soon become submission once his fleet demonstrated its full power. "Begin the first strike," he ordered. "Target their largest cities, minimal force. We wish to conquer this world, not destroy it entirely." Ships began breaking away from the main formation, descending toward Earth's atmosphere, their weapons charging with slow, deliberate power. Velchos watched from his scout position, feeling a strange discomfort he could not quite name. He had studied this species for 6 years. He had seen their art, their music, their strange and passionate stories of struggle and hope. Something about the coming attack unsettled him, though he pushed the feeling aside. He was a scout, not a soldier. His work here was done. Below, on the surface of Earth, air raid sirens began sounding in major cities across the globe, as governments finally revealed to their people the truth that had been hidden for decades. The aliens were real, and they were attacking. Panic spread quickly through the streets of New York, London, Tokyo, and countless other cities, as people looked up at the sky in fear and confusion, seeing strange lights descending toward them for the first time in human history. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, General Reyes watched the first wave of alien ships enter Earth's atmosphere on his monitors. He knew the moment had finally come. "All fleet ships," he said, his voice carrying across the secure channel connecting all 12 hidden vessels. "This is command. The enemy has begun their attack. You are cleared for surface breach. Rise and defend your world." Aboard Fleet Ship 7, Captain Sarah Kim took a deep breath and gave the order she had trained her entire career to give. "Engines to full power, take us up." The massive ship, built over years in complete secrecy, using both human ingenuity and ancient alien technology, began to rise from the ocean floor. Its powerful engines pushed against the crushing weight of the water above, sending massive shockwaves rippling outward as it climbed toward the surface. Across the world's oceans, 11 other fleet ships began the same climb, rising steadily through the dark water toward the light above, ready to reveal humanity's greatest secret to an enemy who believed Earth had no warships at all. Above, the first alien ships continued their descent toward the cities of Earth, their weapons ready, their commanders confident of an easy victory. They had no idea that the ocean itself was about to rise up and fight back. The people of Earth, standing in their streets and looking up at the alien ships descending from the sky, felt a fear unlike anything in human history. Cities braced for destruction. Militaries around the world scrambled their fighter jets and mobilized their forces, though everyone understood these efforts would do little against a fleet of 200 alien warships. But then, something extraordinary began to happen. Along the coastlines of the Pacific, Atlantic, and Indian Oceans, the water began to churn violently. Waves rose higher than any storm could create. Boats and ships nearby were pushed aside by massive underwater currents. And then, slowly, unbelievably, massive shapes began breaking the surface of the water. Fleet Ship 7 emerged first, its dark hull streaming with ocean water, rising into the sky with a low, powerful roar that shook the air for miles around. Sunlight reflected off its smooth, armored surface as it climbed higher, revealing its true size, larger than any aircraft carrier ever built, shaped with sharp, elegant lines that seemed to belong to no country on Earth, and yet somehow belonged to humanity entirely. Across the globe, 11 more fleet ships rose in the same dramatic fashion, breaking the surface of oceans near major cities, climbing into the sky with growing speed and power. In orbit, Commander Skarn Ur's sensors exploded with sudden, impossible readings. 12 massive vessels, larger than anything his scans had predicted, rising rapidly from Earth's oceans, their weapon systems activating with power levels that matched his own warships. "Impossible," he said quietly, staring at his screen in disbelief. Velchas reported no warships, no defenses. Far above, in his small scout ship, Velchas stared at the same readings with wide, stunned eyes, his 4 narrow eyes blinking rapidly in shock. "I found nothing," he whispered to himself. There was nothing there. But now, 12 massive human fleet ships rose steadily into Earth's sky, engines glowing bright, weapons charging, ready to defend their world against an enemy who had severely underestimated the planet they had come to conquer. The battle for Earth was about to begin. The sky over the Pacific Ocean turned bright with fire and light as Fleet Ship 7 climbed higher, its engines roaring against the wind. Inside the bridge, Captain Sarah Kim gripped the edge of her console, watching the enemy formation ahead on her main screen. Dozens of alien ships, smaller than her own vessel but numerous and fast, were breaking away from the main fleet to engage the newly risen human warships. "Enemy fighters incoming," Tomas Rivera called out from his station. 15 contacts, closing fast. "Shields at full power," Sarah ordered. "Weapons free. Defend the ship, but do not fire first unless fired upon." The crew held their breath as the alien fighters approached, small sleek ships with sharp wings and glowing weapon ports. For a moment, it seemed as though the enemy might hesitate, confused by the sudden appearance of Earth's hidden fleet. Then the first shot came. A streak of blue energy shot from one of the alien fighters, striking Fleet Ship 7's shields with a bright flash. The ship shuddered slightly, but the shields held firm. "They're firing," Tomas shouted. "Return fire," Sarah said immediately, her voice steady, despite the sudden chaos. "Target their weapon systems only. We are not here to destroy them if we don't have to." Fleet Ship 7's main cannons, built using technology recovered from the ancient alien wreckage decades ago, and refined by generations of human engineers, fired precise bursts of energy toward the attacking fighters. 2 of the alien ships exploded instantly, their weapons systems destroyed by the accurate strikes. The remaining fighters scattered, clearly shocked by the sudden, powerful resistance. Across the world, similar battles erupted, as the other 11 fleet ships engaged their own groups of alien fighters. Explosions lit up the sky over London, Tokyo, Sydney, and Rio de Janeiro, as humanity's hidden fleet revealed its true strength for the very first time. In orbit, Commander Skarn watched the battle unfold with growing anger and disbelief. His scans had never detected these massive human vessels. His scout, Velchas, had reported no defenses whatsoever, and yet here they were, 12 powerful warships, fighting back with skill and precision that no primitive species should possess. "Send in the main assault group," Skarn ordered, his voice sharp with frustration. "Show them the true power of the Drenari Empire." 50 larger warships broke away from the main formation, moving to engage the human fleet ships directly. These were not simple fighters, but true warships, armed with heavy plasma cannons and protected by strong energy shields. Aboard Fleet Ship 7, alarms blared as the new threat approached. 50 warships incoming, Tomas reported, his voice tight with tension. "They're much larger than the fighters. Their weapons readings are significantly stronger." Captain Sarah Kim studied the approaching enemy formation carefully. She had trained for years for exactly this moment, running countless simulations of larger-scale battles. But simulations were never quite the same as reality. "All fleet ships. This is Captain Kim of Fleet Ship 7, she said, opening a channel to the other 11 human warships scattered around the globe. "Enemy reinforcements are approaching in force. Recommend we regroup and form a defensive formation before they overwhelm any single ship." General Reyes's voice cut through the channel from command. "Agreed. All fleet ships, converge on Fleet Ship 7's position. We fight together, not alone." Slowly, the other 11 massive human warships began adjusting their courses, breaking away from their individual battles to form a unified defensive line above the Pacific Ocean. It was a risky move, leaving some cities temporarily less protected, but the leadership had trained for this exact scenario. Concentrated strength was always more effective than scattered defense. On the ground, people watched in stunned amazement as massive human warships moved through the sky, engaging alien fighters in explosive battles high above their heads. News broadcasts around the world scrambled to explain what was happening, showing shaky footage of the enormous vessels that had risen from the world's oceans just hours earlier. In Norway, Dr. Elena Voss watched the growing conflict from the underwater base's control room, her hands clenched tightly at her sides. Years of secret work, decades of careful planning, all coming down to this single, desperate battle. "They're forming up," she said, watching the tactical display as the 12 fleet ships gathered into a tight defensive formation above the Pacific. "It's working. They're actually working together." General Reyes stood beside her, his eyes fixed on the screen. "It's what we trained them for. Now we find out if training is enough." As the 50 Drenari warships approached the human formation, Commander Skarn transmitted another message, his voice cold and commanding. "You have shown unexpected strength, but you cannot win. Surrender now, and your species may be spared unnecessary suffering." Captain Sarah Kim, now serving as the temporary voice for the entire human fleet, responded firmly. "This is Earth. We did not ask for this conflict, and we do not wish for war. But we will not surrender our home. Withdraw your fleet, and we can discuss peace." There was a moment of silence, then Skarner's voice returned, sharper this time. "There will be no peace, only conquest." The 50 alien warships opened fire simultaneously, sending a storm of energy blasts toward the human defensive formation. The 12 fleet ships responded instantly, their shields flaring brightly as they absorbed the incoming attacks, while their own weapons fired back in coordinated, precise bursts. The battle that followed was unlike anything Earth had ever witnessed. Massive warships exchanged devastating attacks high above the Pacific Ocean, explosions lighting up the sky like a violent, beautiful storm. Human pilots and crews, trained for years in secret simulations, fought with a discipline and coordination that surprised even themselves. Aboard Fleet Ship 7, Tomas Rivera watched his monitors with intense focus, tracking the shifting battle lines. "Shields holding at 78%, he called out. "Fleet Ship 3 reports minor damage but remains combat ready." "Concentrate fire on their lead ship," Sarah ordered, watching as the largest of the 50 alien warships pushed forward aggressively. "If we can take out their command vessel, the rest may lose coordination." The human fleet adjusted its formation smoothly, channeling concentrated fire toward the largest enemy warship. Under the combined assault of multiple fleet ships firing together, the alien vessel's shields began to weaken rapidly. Aboard his own command ship, Commander Skarn watched with growing alarm as his lead assault vessel took heavy damage. He had never seen a species organize such an effective, coordinated defense on their very first encounter with an advanced enemy fleet. "Pull back the assault group," he ordered reluctantly. "Regroup at a safe distance. We need to reassess." The remaining alien warships retreated, leaving behind several destroyed vessels, drifting silently in the sky. For the first time since the invasion began, the Drenari fleet had been forced to retreat. Cheers erupted through the communication channels, connecting the 12 human fleet ships, crews celebrating their first victory against an enemy that had believed conquest would be effortless. But Captain Sarah Kim did not celebrate. She watched the retreating alien ships carefully, knowing this was far from over. "They'll be back," she said quietly to her crew. "And next time, they won't underestimate us." In his private quarters aboard his scout ship, Vel-Chos sat alone, staring at the recorded footage of the battle. He watched again and again as the massive human warships fought with skill and precision, far beyond anything he had predicted in his reports. He felt something he had not expected to feel, a strange mixture of guilt and admiration. His research had been thorough, his conclusions had seemed certain, and yet he had been completely wrong. He thought about the years he had spent observing Earth, watching its people build, create, argue, and dream. He had seen their wars, their struggles, their endless capacity for both destruction and hope. Perhaps, he thought quietly, he had underestimated not just their technology, but their spirit as well. A new message arrived from Commander Skarn-Ur, addressed to all scouts and officers of the fleet. Reassessment required. Human capabilities exceed initial projections. New strategy will be prepared. All units stand by for further orders. Vel-Chos closed the message and looked out his viewport at the distant blue planet below, now surrounded by the drifting wreckage of destroyed Drenari ships. For the first time since beginning his mission, he wondered if the Empire's plans for Earth might not unfold as easily as everyone had assumed. Back on Earth, in the underground facility beneath the Swiss mountains, the world's leaders watched the battle's aftermath with a strange mixture of relief and fear. "We won," the representative from Japan said quietly, almost in disbelief. "We won one battle," General Reyes corrected firmly. "This is far from over. Their commander will regroup, rethink his strategy, and return with a stronger plan. We need to use this time wisely." Elena Voss nodded in agreement. "We should bring the remaining fleet ships to combat readiness immediately, even the ones not fully complete. If they attack again in greater force, we'll need every ship we have." Marcus looked around the room at the tired but determined faces of the world's leaders. "This is only the beginning," he said. "Today, we showed them we can fight. Now we need to show them we can win." High above the Pacific Ocean, the 12 human fleet ships held their defensive position, their crews exhausted but resolute, watching the horizon carefully for any sign of the enemy's return. Somewhere far beyond Earth's moon, Commander Skarn-Ur gathered his surviving officers, already planning a new, more devastating assault, one that would not underestimate humanity's strength a second time. The first battle for Earth was over, but the war had only just begun. 3 days passed after the first battle above the Pacific Ocean. Earth held its breath, watching the sky, waiting for the Drenari fleet to return. In that time, the world changed forever. Governments that had spent decades hiding the truth now stood before their people, explaining the Ocean Watch project openly for the first time. Millions watched footage of the 12 massive fleet ships hovering silently above the world's oceans, standing guard against an enemy that could return at any moment. Inside the underwater base, General Marcus Reyes barely slept. Every hour brought new reports, new preparations, new decisions that could mean the difference between survival and disaster. "Status on the remaining fleet ships," he said, walking briskly into the control room, where Dr. Elena Voss worked alongside a team of exhausted engineers. "Fleet ships 13 through 18 have reached 70% readiness," Elena reported, dark circles visible under her eyes from lack of sleep. "We pushed the construction teams hard, but they're not fully combat capable yet." "And weapon systems?" "Online, but untested in real combat." Marcus rubbed his temples, thinking carefully. "We may not have a choice. If Skarn-Ur returns with his full remaining fleet, 12 ships alone won't be enough." Across the room, Tomas Rivera worked at a secondary console, coordinating communication between the various fleet ship crews. He had been reassigned temporarily to command after his sharp performance during the first battle, though he still felt out of place among so many senior officers. "Sir," he said, catching Marcus's attention, "Deepwatch is picking up unusual activity near the outer edge of the solar system. It might be the enemy fleet regrouping." Marcus walked quickly to Tomas's console, studying the data. Faint energy signatures, spread out in a wide formation, slowly gathering strength near the orbit of Jupiter. "How long until they can reach Earth?" "At their current movement pattern, maybe 18 hours. Marcus straightened, his expression hardening with determination. "Then we have 18 hours to prepare for the fight of our lives." Far beyond Jupiter, aboard his massive command vessel, Commander Skarn Ur studied battle simulations with his senior officers, determined not to repeat the mistakes of the first encounter. He had underestimated Earth once. He would not make that error again. "Bring forward the heavy assault ships," he ordered. "This time, we do not send scattered fighters and mid-sized warships piecemeal into battle. We strike with full force, overwhelming their defenses before they can organize." His fleet, though weakened by the losses of the first battle, still numbered over 150 warships, including several massive dreadnoughts capable of devastating planetary bombardment. Vel Chas stood quietly among the gathered officers, listening carefully. He had been reassigned to combat analysis after his earlier miscalculation, a demotion that stung deeply, though he understood the reasoning behind it. "Commander," he said carefully, "if I may offer an observation." Skarner turned toward him, his expression cold. "Speak." "The humans fought with remarkable coordination in our first encounter, despite having far fewer ships. Their tactics suggest extensive training and preparation, not desperate improvisation. I believe they anticipated conflict long before our arrival. Your point?" "My point, Commander, is that we may be facing a species far more prepared for war than any we have previously encountered. I recommend caution, not simply greater force." Skarn Ur studied the smaller scout for a long moment, his 4 eyes narrowing thoughtfully. "Your caution nearly cost us this entire campaign once already, Vel Chas. This time, we will not hold back. Overwhelming force will succeed where careful observation failed." Vel Chas said nothing further, though privately, he remained unconvinced. Back on Earth, the 12 original fleet ships underwent rapid repairs and upgrades, drawing on data collected during the first battle. Engineers across the world worked around the clock, refining shield frequencies, adjusting weapon targeting systems, and reinforcing armor plating based on lessons learned from the enemy's attack patterns. Aboard Fleet Ship 7, Captain Sarah Kim gathered her senior officers for a final briefing before the expected second assault. "Our shields performed well against their standard weapons," she said, "but their heavier warships carry plasma cannons capable of punching through our defenses if we take sustained fire. We need to avoid prolonged direct engagement with their largest vessels." "What's our strategy this time?" asked her weapons officer, a sharp young woman named Lieutenant Priya Nair. Sarah pulled up a tactical display showing the 12 fleet ships and the 6 newer, less prepared vessels. "We use speed and coordination instead of raw strength, hit their formation hard, disable key ships, then retreat before they can concentrate fire on any single one of us. We fight smart, not just strong." Tomas Rivera, still connected remotely from command, spoke through the comm system. "Captain, command wants to remind all fleet ship crews that civilian evacuation of major coastal cities is underway. If this battle moves closer to shore, we need to keep enemy fire away from populated areas as much as possible." Sarah nodded firmly. "Understood. Protecting Earth's people remains our top priority, above even destroying enemy ships." As the 18-hour countdown continued, people around the world prepared in their own ways for what many were calling humanity's greatest test. Cities organized emergency shelters, militaries coordinated with the newly revealed fleet ship command structure, and ordinary people, for the first time in history, looked up at the night sky, not with simple wonder, but with a mixture of fear and fragile hope. In Norway, Elena Voss took a rare moment to step outside the underwater base's surface entrance, looking up at the darkening sky. Somewhere far above, an alien fleet was preparing to descend upon her world once again. Marcus joined her quietly, standing beside her without speaking for a long moment. "Do you think we'll win?" she finally asked. "I don't know," Marcus admitted honestly, "but I know we'll fight harder than they expect. That has to count for something." Elena managed a tired smile. 40 years of secrecy, all leading to this moment. "Not just secrecy," Marcus said. 40 years of hope, that we would be ready, if the day ever came." They stood together in silence, watching the stars, knowing that within hours, those same stars would fill with the fire of battle once again. The Drenari fleet arrived exactly on schedule, emerging from the edge of the solar system in a massive, coordinated formation. This time, there were no scouts sent ahead, no cautious probing. Commander Skarn Ur brought his full remaining force directly toward Earth, determined to end the conflict swiftly and decisively. Deep watch sensors detected the approaching fleet immediately, sending urgent alerts throughout Earth's defense network. All fleet ships, this is command, General Reyes announced across the secure channel. Enemy fleet inbound, ETA 30 minutes. All 18 vessels, prepare for combat deployment. Aboard Fleet Ship 7, Captain Sarah Kim watched her crew move through final preparations with practiced efficiency. Despite the danger ahead, there was a quiet confidence among them now, born from their first successful defense. All hands, this is your captain, she said over the ship's internal comm. Today, we face our greatest test yet. Remember your training. Remember what we're fighting for. Let's bring everyone home. Across the globe, the newer, less prepared fleet ships, 13 through 18, rose from their hidden ocean bases for the very first time, joining their more experienced counterparts in forming a massive defensive line above the Pacific. 18 human warships, built through decades of secret labor and sacrifice, stood ready to face an alien armada more than 8 times their number. As the Drenari fleet entered Earth's orbit, Commander Skarn transmitted a final message, his voice carrying cold determination. Your resistance was noted and respected, but today, it ends. Surrender your world, or face complete destruction of your defensive fleet. Captain Sarah Kim, once again serving as the voice of humanity's defense, responded firmly. We will not surrender. This is our home, and we will defend it, no matter the cost. There was no further negotiation. The battle began immediately, with the full might of both fleets clashing violently above the Pacific Ocean. The scale of this battle dwarfed the first encounter entirely. Massive dreadnoughts exchanged devastating plasma fire with human fleet ships, while smaller warships and fighters darted between the larger vessels, engaging in desperate close-range combat. Aboard Fleet Ship 7, alarms blared constantly as the ship absorbed heavy damage from multiple directions. Shields down to 40%, Tomas shouted, his hands moving rapidly across his console. We're taking fire from 3 different angles. Evasive maneuvers, Sarah ordered, gripping her chair tightly as the ship shook violently from a nearby explosion. Lieutenant Nair, target their nearest cruiser, full power to forward weapons. The battle raged on for what felt like hours, though in reality, only minutes passed. Human fleet ships, using superior coordination and tactics, managed to destroy several enemy warships, while suffering heavy but manageable damage themselves. However, the sheer number of Drenari vessels began to take its toll, slowly overwhelming Earth's smaller defensive fleet. Fleet Ship 15 is losing power, someone shouted over the emergency channel. They're requesting immediate support. Sarah made a split-second decision. Fleet Ship 7, moving to support 15. All available ships, converge on their position. As Fleet Ship 7 redirected its course, a massive Drenari dreadnought turned its heavy cannons directly toward the approaching human vessel, preparing to unleash devastating firepower. Captain, that dreadnought is charging its main weapon, Tomas warned urgently. If it fires directly at us, our shields won't hold. Sarah's eyes narrowed with fierce determination as she watched the massive enemy ship prepare to fire. Then we'll just have to make sure it doesn't get the chance. She gave the order that would decide the fate of not just her ship, but potentially the entire battle for Earth. All weapons, target their main cannon. Fire everything we've got. Fleet Ship 7's weapons fired in a coordinated burst, every cannon aimed precisely at the charging weapon port of the massive Drenari dreadnought. Bright streaks of energy crossed the dark sky, slamming into the enemy ship's forward section, just as its main cannon reached full charge. The explosion that followed lit up the battle like a second sun. The dreadnought's main weapon detonated internally, tearing through its own hull in a chain reaction that spread rapidly across the ship's front half. Within seconds, the massive vessel broke apart, sending debris scattering across the battlefield. Aboard Fleet Ship 7, the crew erupted into brief, exhausted cheers, before quickly returning focus to the chaos still unfolding around them. Fleet Ship 15, reports shields restored to 60%, Tomas called out, watching the tactical display. They're rejoining the formation. Sarah allowed herself a small breath of relief before turning her attention back to the wider battle. Despite their small victory, the situation remained desperate. Explosions filled the sky in every direction, as the 18 human fleet ships fought desperately against the remaining Drenari armada. "Command, this is Kim," she said, opening a channel to General Reyes. "We've destroyed one dreadnought, but we're taking heavy losses. Fleet Ship 9 reports critical damage. We need a new strategy, or we won't survive much longer." Marcus's voice came through, tense but controlled. "Understood. Analyzing enemy formation now." In the underwater command center, Marcus studied the battle map carefully, watching red and blue markers clash violently across the display. Despite the desperate fighting, a pattern was beginning to emerge in the enemy's formation. "Elena," he said urgently, "look at this. Their dreadnoughts are clustering near the center of their formation, protected by smaller escort ships. If we could break through that escort screen, we might disable multiple dreadnoughts at once." Elena studied the pattern quickly. "It's risky. Concentrating our remaining fleet ships for a direct strike would leave other areas exposed." "We don't have many options left," Marcus said grimly. "If we don't strike decisively now, we'll be overwhelmed through simple attrition." He opened the fleet-wide channel, his voice carrying clearly to all 18 fleet ship captains. "All ships, this is command. New orders. Form a spearhead formation. Fleet Ship 7 at point. Target the enemy's central dreadnought cluster directly. We end this battle with one decisive strike." Aboard the Drenari command vessel, Commander Skarn Ur watched with growing frustration as his fleet suffered unexpected losses. The humans fought with a ferocity and skill that continued to defy his expectations. "Casualties?" he demanded. 11 warships destroyed, Commander, an officer reported, including the dreadnought Vorash. Skarn Ur's grip tightened on the edge of his console. 11 ships lost against a defending fleet less than a tenth the size of his own. It was unprecedented, humiliating, and deeply troubling. Vel Chos, standing quietly nearby, finally spoke again. "Commander, I recommend we consider withdrawal. Our losses are mounting faster than anticipated, and human reinforcements may continue to arrive." "Withdrawal is not an option," Skarn Ur snapped. "The Empire does not retreat from primitive species." "With respect, Commander," Vel Chos said carefully, "this species is proving far from primitive. Perhaps it is time to reconsider our approach entirely." Before Skarn Ur could respond, new alarms sounded across the bridge. Sensors detected a large formation of human fleet ships, breaking away from their scattered defensive positions, converging rapidly toward the center of the Drenari fleet. "They're attempting a direct assault on our command cluster," an officer reported urgently. Skarn Ur's eyes narrowed with fierce determination. "Then we will destroy them completely. All remaining warships, converge, and eliminate that formation immediately." The human spearhead formation, led by Fleet Ship 7, cut through the outer edges of the Drenari fleet with precise, coordinated strikes. Escort ships scrambled to intercept, but the tight, disciplined human formation proved difficult to stop. "Almost through their escort screen," Tomas reported, watching the tactical display intensely. "2 more enemy cruisers blocking our path to the dreadnought cluster." "Punch through," Sarah ordered. "Full power to forward shields and weapons." Fleet Ship 7 surged forward, its weapons blazing as it broke through the last line of enemy escorts, followed closely by the remaining human fleet ships. Ahead, 3 massive Drenari dreadnoughts loomed, their heavy cannons beginning to turn toward the approaching human formation. "They're targeting us," Tomas warned. "All ships, spread formation, evasive pattern Delta," Sarah ordered quickly. "Target their weapon systems, not their hulls. We disable, not destroy, if possible." The human fleet ships scattered slightly, avoiding a devastating concentrated volley from the dreadnoughts, before returning fire with precise, targeted strikes, aimed specifically at weapon ports and engine systems. The battle that followed was intense and chaotic, ships weaving between explosions and debris as both sides fought with everything they had. Slowly, methodically, the coordinated human strikes began disabling one dreadnought after another, their weapon systems failing under sustained, accurate fire. Aboard the Drenari command vessel, Commander Skarn Ur watched in growing disbelief as his central dreadnought cluster, the heart of his fleet's power, was systematically disabled by the smaller, faster human formation. "This is impossible," he muttered, watching another dreadnought go dark on his display. Vel Chos stepped forward carefully, Commander, our forces are being decisively defeated. If we continue this engagement, we risk losing the entire fleet. I strongly recommend immediate withdrawal before further losses occur. For a long moment, Skarnur said nothing, his pride warring visibly with the harsh reality displayed before him. Finally, his shoulders sagged slightly with reluctant acceptance. Sound the retreat, he said quietly. All remaining ships, withdraw from Earth's orbit immediately. Across the battlefield, the remaining Drenari warships began breaking away from combat, retreating toward the edge of the solar system, leaving behind the wreckage of dozens of destroyed vessels. Aboard Fleet Ship 7, Tomas watched the enemy retreat with stunned relief. Captain, they're pulling back. The entire fleet is withdrawing. Sarah allowed herself a long, exhausted breath, watching the alien ships retreat into the darkness of space. Confirm all fleet ship status, she said quietly. Let's bring everyone home. In the days that followed, the world slowly began to process what had happened. Footage of the massive battle spread across every news network on the planet, showing humanity's hidden fleet standing victorious against an alien armada that had once believed Earth defenseless. Casualties among the 18 fleet ships had been heavy. 3 ships destroyed, dozens of crew members lost, and countless more injured. But the fleet had held. Earth had survived its first true test against the wider galaxy. In the underground facility beneath the Swiss mountains, world leaders gathered once again, this time not in fear, but in cautious hope for the future. The Drenari fleet has withdrawn beyond our solar system's edge, General Reyes reported. Deepwatch shows no immediate sign of their return, though we must remain vigilant. This may not be the last we see of them. What happens now? Asked the representative from Japan. Marcus looked around the room slowly. Now, we rebuild. We strengthen our fleet. We prepare, not just for the possibility of their return, but for whatever else might be waiting out there among the stars. Earth is no longer hidden. The galaxy knows we exist, and knows we can fight. We must be ready for whatever comes next. Aboard his retreating scout ship, Velchos filed his final report on the Earth campaign, knowing it would likely mark the end of his career within the Drenari military. Yet as he prepared the report, he found himself adding something beyond simple facts and figures. The species known as humans possess remarkable resilience, ingenuity, and courage, he wrote. They were underestimated not because they lacked strength, but because they chose, wisely, to hide it until the moment it was truly needed. I believe, whatever the Empire decides regarding this world, that humanity will prove a force to be respected, not conquered, in the years ahead. He looked out at the distant, shrinking shape of Earth through his viewport, a small blue and green world that had once seemed like an easy conquest, but had instead revealed itself as something far greater than anyone had imagined. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, in the quiet, familiar halls of the underwater base, Tomas Rivera stood beside Dr. Anwar Malik, both men staring up at Fleet Ship 7, now resting once again in its repair dock, its battle scars a permanent reminder of the price of victory. We did it, Tomas said quietly. 40 years of secret work, and it was enough. Anwar nodded slowly, a tired but proud smile crossing his face. It was enough this time. But the galaxy is a big place, Tomas. This won't be our last challenge. Tomas looked up at the massive ship above him, thinking of all the sacrifices, the decades of hidden effort, the quiet courage of countless people who had worked tirelessly, never knowing if their labor would ever truly be needed. Then we'll be ready, he said firmly, just like we were this time. Outside, above the calm, endless blue of the Pacific Ocean, the world continued forward into a new and uncertain future, no longer alone in the universe, but no longer defenseless either. Humanity had risen from the depths of its own ocean, and the stars themselves now knew its name.